And now I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, who we are so delighted, Ralph, to have you with us today. Ralph de la Vega has had a distinguished career as a telecommunications executive. He's a native of Cuba. He studied at Florida Atlantic and Northern Illinois universities and at the University of Virginia. He's the author of Obstacles Welcome, Turn Adversity into Advantage in Your Business Life. In 1974, he began his business career at Bell South, and in 2004 became the Chief Operating Officer of Singular Wireless. And since 2008 has been President and CEO of AT&T Mobility and Consumer Markets. And today he leads the consumer divisions of the company's wireless and wired businesses. So we are delighted to have you here, and we, all of you, give a warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Ralph de la Vega.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, President Powers. I very much appreciate those comments. And I also want to make sure that I thank Dean Gilligan. Thank you for inviting me to this prestigious award. And Ronnie, I know you're running the whole show, so thank you for having me here. You know, President Powers made a comment that really I wanted to emphasize. He said, if you have leadership and ethics and education, it can transform lives. And those three things have transformed my life. I just going to give you a brief background so you know where my comments come from. Like you mentioned, I was born in Cuba. At the age of 10, my parents decided to leave Cuba. Got to the airport, decided only I could leave that day. The family decided to send me ahead thinking they would follow in the next day. I would not see my parents again for 4 years. So I found myself in a new country with no family here, didn't speak the language, and didn't have any money. And I'm sitting here speaking to you today as the president and CEO of AT&T Mobility, a company with $50 billion. We live in a great country, ladies and gentlemen. We live in a great country where the dream is still very much alive. If you study, if you get an education, if you lead your life with ethics and leadership, all kinds of things are possible. I'm so passionate about leadership and ethics that I thought I would give you my comments, but I would give you my comments using real examples of what happened to me early in my career that dramatically changed how I felt about these issues. And the first thing I want to take you back to is when I was almost the age of the students here, about to graduate from college, achieving a dream that I thought I would never be able to achieve was to graduate from college because we didn't have any money. So I got through college with loans and part-time jobs and just barely made it through the fourth year before I got hired. And I was really looking forward to getting this new job so I could make some real money and get a really nice car. I had been driving a beat-up VW for 10 years and it was falling apart. In fact, that car was so bad that just after graduation, the windshield wipers motor blew up and stopped working. And I didn't have any money to fix it. So I just didn't drive in rainy days. And so this puts in context what happened to me in the first week that I set foot on the job as an engineer working for Bell South. I got to the job and they gave me the job as an engineer, and I had done all my work in school. I said, I can do this job without any problems. But when you're in management, like engineers were at that time, you also got a side job, and the side job was that you had to check on what were then called coin telephone lines or coin stations. Remember those? Probably most of you never used one, right? But you go, there's a booth, you put your coin in, you get dialed to, and you call somebody until that money runs out. Well, my job, in addition to being an engineer, I had to go and check on all those coin stations to make sure that they were working right. And my job was to put a coin in that station, make sure it worked right, make sure it was clean, and report back if there were any problems so we could fix it. So my first week on the job, I get to that coin station, I put my coin in, I started to make the call, and all of a sudden, it's like I hit the 3 bananas in Vegas. All the money comes out. I mean, all the money comes out. I'm looking at windshield wipers, I'm looking at all kinds of things. Man, this is a great country. But here's what I did with that money. You know what I did with that money? I took every single one of those coins back to my district manager and said, these don't belong to me. This is not my money. I'm just returning it because I don't know what else to do with it. And went and sat down to do my job as an engineer. District manager comes back 2 hours later and says, son, did you know those coins were marked? I go, marked? What are you talking about? See, those coins were marked for ultraviolet light, and they were put in place to make sure that the coin collectors who were collecting those coins were kept in check. And so if I had kept any of those coins, I think I would have been fired my first week on the job. An amazing story of ethics matter even when people are not looking at what you're doing. And so that happened to me on my first day on the job, and I've never forgotten the importance of doing the right thing all the time. Now, fast forward to when I was running our operations in 11 countries in Latin America. I was running our wireless operations in 11 countries in Latin America at a very difficult time in Latin America. So I'm going to explain that ethics happen day to day, whether you have a good situation or a bad situation. What was the situation in Latin America? When I took over Latin America, the economy if you think the economy we see today is bad, you haven't seen anything yet. There was a real depression in Argentina. The country's currency was devalued 4-1. It was 1-1 to the peso, and the next day it was devalued to 4-1. I ran $1 billion company in Argentina that overnight became a $250 million company in Argentina. That hurts a business plan that year. It really does. So Argentina blows up on us. The next thing that happens in Venezuela, there's a coup attempt. Mr. Chavez gets thrown out of office. He comes back a day and a half later. The businesses go on strike. That was our most profitable country. The banks closed. The gas stations closed. There was no mail delivery. We had to run a modern-day telecommunications company using, technology of the 1800s just to keep it going. In Brazil, what was going on is our partner in Brazil defaulted on a payment on $1 billion loan. And so we had a default on $1 billion loan. The first time, any time in our company, that there was a default because our partner didn't put up their part. We're negotiating with 34 Brazilian banks, tough lawyers in those banks. And then in Colombia, there were rebels from the FARC, and the rebels were blowing up our radio towers. Other than that, it was business as usual in Latin America. But the operation that I was taking over had 2 lapses in ethics. They had 2 ethical lapses, and I was put in there with a charge of turn this thing around, make it profitable. It had never made a profit. Deal with this crisis. Oh, and yes, you can't have another ethical lapse, or we have to shut down operations. 2 very serious ethical lapses. We took those challenges on. We trained everybody on the right ethics. I personally talked to every key manager on how to behave, including talking to the presidents of those countries to let them know how we, a US-based company, was going to run in Latin America. But my biggest challenge came when I found out that we had been given free service to many generals in those countries. You cannot give free service of anything of value more than $50, or you're in violation of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. And it's a very serious violation. So I had to tell all of our people to tell the generals that we will give them a great deal on their phone service, but they will have to pay for it. And there was a big crowd in the room, and there was one guy raised his hand and he says, Ralph, Mr. De La Vega, do I have to? I said, yes, you have to go and tell the generals, either they pay for the service or you got to give the phone service back. And you know what? They paid. We had talked to the presidents, but in that turmoil, we always took time to do the right thing, which is we can't run the company any other way than the right way we need to run for a US-based company. And that's why I think it's so important to me to communicate those 2 messages to you, so you know that ethics happens in real life. They happen to you personally. And it's that moment of truth when you see something wrong. Do you ignore it, or do you do something about it? I couldn't ignore the fact that I knew they were getting free service. We had to fix it. We fixed it, and we moved on. And guess what? The next year, the company was profitable. The next year, it was even more profitable, and that the economic times got better. And so it was a great story of success. What I wanted to share with you is briefly just the framework that I use as a leader and what I strongly believe in are the right principles for a leader to have. And I'm going to use a very simple sketch to talk from. This is a picture of something that looks like a house. And I want to begin with the roof. And I tell people that this is the framework that I have used throughout my career, whether domestic or internationally. And it begins with the top of the house. I tell people that you've got to dream big and you've got to believe in yourself. If you don't dream big, you never can achieve the most for yourself. I find sometimes people have others put limitations on what they can do. See, that happened to me when I was going through high school. When I went to my high school counselor, having recently arrived from Cuba, and told him that I wanted to be an engineer, the counselor looked at my grades. They were kind of average, and my English was not very good, and certainly I didn't have any money. So he told me, yes, I know you want to be an engineer, Ralph, but you should study to be a mechanic. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a mechanic, except that wasn't my dream. My family wasn't here, so I listened to that counselor, and I stopped going to regular high school classes, and I started to study to be a mechanic, the best mechanic I could be, but I started to study to be a mechanic, until my grandmother, my abuela, came from Cuba. And she said, she was a school teacher in Cuba, and she said, Ralph, it's great to see you, but you're telling me you're studying to be a mechanic, but you want to be an engineer. That doesn't make any sense. And then she said the words that I've repeated to every group that I've talked to. She says, Ralph, don't let anybody ever put limitations on what you can achieve. If you want to be an engineer, you can be an engineer. So I took that counselor's advice, and you know what I did with it? Control-Alt-Delete. Got rid of it, and I'm speaking to you as a graduate mechanical engineer. So dream big and don't let anybody put obstacles in the way of those dreams. Either you, your children, your organization, your school. It begins with that. But having a dream is not enough. Unfortunately, dreaming is not enough. You have to have the pillars of success. And I call them, you have to have a winning plan to help you achieve your goals. You have to be able to take risks, calculable, reasonable risk. You have to learn how to overcome obstacles. And you have to be able to recognize the opportunities all around you. I tell people, and we tell people in our company, that a job well planned is half done. You got to have a good plan, and you got to be able to execute it well. Taking risk is really important. I don't have enough time to go into it, but over my life and my career, I've always been willing to step out into that little danger zone where you feel you don't know if you can really do that job or that task, but it really makes you be the best person you can be, and it takes you to another level. That's where I've always learned the most. Overcoming obstacles, they're always going to get in your way. As soon as you come up with a plan that you think is going to get you there, something will change, so you just have to learn how to live with that. And then recognizing opportunities. I tell people that when you look at an opportunity, sometimes you don't recognize it because it looks like a problem to you. Except that inside every problem, inside every difficulty, there's opportunity if you only look around it. And most oftentimes, only the obstacles are seen and not the opportunities. Now, what I want to really focus on is the bottom part. You see that house sits on a foundation. And to me, those are the principles that you build your pillars on, that you build your dreams on. Without a good set of principles, those dreams sometimes will never materialize because you went the wrong way. And I want to talk about those principles and then see if you have any questions or comments. But I want to talk from those principles from a little different chart. I want to put them in the form of a pyramid. I call it my pyramid of principles. And they begin from the bottom up, not from the top down. Because the base of the pyramid begins with integrity and credibility. And I tell people that leaders who don't have integrity and credibility are not good leaders. You cannot be a good leader without a good foundation. And if there's a crack in that foundation, even a small crack, it leads to a big crack. And it leads to all kinds of problems. So I tell people, I want great people, I want great talent, but if they don't have integrity, I don't want you on my team. I don't care how talented you are. I don't care how good you look, how well you speak. Without integrity, I just don't want you on my team. I don't want you to do anything that's illegal, unethical, or immoral. Other than that, let's go out there and win in the marketplace. We're going to win the right way. And I tie that with credibility. Credibility to me is, do you do what you said you're going to do? And the combination of those two, when you have people on your team that have integrity and credibility, then you build trust. And when you have trust in people, wonderful things happen. But absent that, you have a real problem in your hands. Attitude, I've never seen a more positive thing than having somebody with a great attitude tackle on tough problems. Great talent with high integrity and credibility and a great attitude, it just moves mountains, and it's contagious. When you have a great attitude, I just find that the problems that seem huge go away when you have an attitude of can do and you go after it. Teamwork, in business is a team sport, unfortunately, and so you have to be a good team player, in my view, and that's one of the founding principles. By the way, when you take integrity, credibility, attitude, and teamwork, that's what trust is all about, and that's what is really important, at least from my point of view in business. Then I look at the other two, is excellence. Do you come in wanting to do the job better today than you did yesterday? If I was to run my business like I ran it last year, I'd be in real trouble. Every year we have to change our business to keep up with the competition, and I want people who actually help me to achieve that. And then finally, vision. I want people who have vision not only to see where we need to go, but to convince others to go there. And those are the things that I view, the 6 principles that I lead my life by. That doesn't mean they're the only right 6. Those are the 6 that have worked for me, and that's what I like to talk about. Now let me shift for a minute and talk about something that I wanted to just chat with you, especially the young people here, and that is what I call your brand. What is your brand? When people talk about you, what is your brand character? We have a lot of brands in business, but what is your personal brand? What do you want people to know you by? These are the things that I want people to know me by. Somebody that has integrity, somebody that has credibility, somebody that has a great attitude, that can work with a team. Those are the things that I believe in. And let me tell you, going back to integrity, I tell people that integrity is like a forest. If you can imagine the greenest forest that you have ever seen, a beautiful green forest, realize that that forest took probably hundreds of years to develop. But one match in a forest can burn that 100-year-old forest in a minute. Same thing with your reputation and your integrity. One act, one failure of integrity can ruin a reputation that maybe you were trying to build for years. So I tell people, you've got to build a credibility account, like a bank account. You've got to really build it high, because none of us are perfect. We're not perfect. You can take a little small flaw. A wide receiver can drop a pass now and then, but if they drop too many, they don't have credibility, right? You don't want that person on your team. You want somebody that you can rely on. And so building your brand, I would like for you to think when you leave here, what is my brand when I get in business? What do I stand for when you really have pressure and challenges like you have never seen? Do you cave in? Do you look the other way? When I was facing all those issues in Latin America, it would have been real easy to say, you know what, we've got a little problem here. We're going to ignore it, and we're just going to go do the things that are really big. No. You have to do the things that are really big, and you have to do the things with integrity to be able to get to your goals. So those are the things that I wanted to talk to you about today. We're running a little bit over time, so I want to kind of fast forward here and take you to the end. I think that, especially for the young people that are here, I think what I hopefully given you is that, first and foremost, we live in a great country. Despite all the things that you hear, this is the beacon of opportunity for the world. You're living here. Take advantage of getting an education. You're in probably the best educational institution anybody would want to be in, the University of Texas, right? I think take advantage of the opportunities when they get in front of you, even though it may feel uncomfortable. I've always found that leaving your comfort zone makes you a much better person. Unless you feel that little edge that maybe you don't know if you can do something, you're never going to push yourself. But when you push yourself using the right ethics and the right moral. To the young people here, I'm so proud to see you here, because you know what? Your community needs you. Your community needs leaders with integrity. Our country needs leaders like you that believe in their community and that lead the right way with the right ethics. So I just came here to give you a couple of words of wisdom and to wish you a great success. I know you're going to have a great future. Thank you very much.